All righty, welcome to Wine by the Case,
where we uncork legal insights one bottle at a time.
So we are both licensed in Florida, so we do have something Florida specific.
It has made the national news.
It has made the national news. I think this was always a triggering hot topic anyways, even before this happened.
Yes.
The whole vaccine thing, whether to vaccine your kids, your position on it. And I think people are generally, there's no middle ground. It definitely is polarizing. So what's going on right now in the old Florida?
we are the state that gave the rest of the country Florida man.
Well, we're the state that keeps giving.
Exactly.
Keep giving.
I continue to think, we think California can be crazy. California does some stupid shit, but then they say to Florida, Florida goes, hold my beer. Because we take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, like the warm weather states kind of lead
the swampiness.
The way with that. But I think if you even internationally asked, Florida would take the lead. So what have we done now?
Well, other than the fact that there was a woman in Target in Florida yesterday, doing one of the wheelchair things, driving through, opened a bottle of wine, went and grabbed a pack of cinnamon buns, opening up, and is singing at the top of her lungs going through Target. I mean, where else does that happen?
Well, let's be fair. I just think that's pure happiness. I don't actually have a problem with that. She was having an experience.
Yeah, she was having an experience. They didn't, and they took her away, and they said she was not quite coherent. But you got to appreciate that Florida, has these particular kinds of experiences. But we recently had a very interesting experience in that our Surgeon General announced that Florida was going to take the big step of not requiring vaccines for school,
for children, for childhood.
Yeah,
we're not talking about the COVID vaccine.
MMR, right? Nope. MMR, polio. What's the other one? Oh, chickenpox.
Well, it's all okay. So let's just dive into this, because the bottom line is there's a lot of them, and that's kind of part. A lot of people have problems.
There are a lot, but there are only 4 that are required. Okay, 4.
Okay,
that's it. The rest are totally optional. So again, I think you can get up to 32 different vaccines if you choose. But
which, by the way, when we were kids, I think it was only like, I want to say maybe 9 or 10.
A circle there from my polio.
Yeah, I think it was 9 or 10 compared to 36.
Exactly. But again, those are still optional. And I understand why people say, they don't want to do the MMR in the same day that they're doing the chicken pox. I mean, that's a lot for a little body to handle. So I appreciate people wanting to separate that out.
Getting into the whole vaccine gets a little detailed, because the bottom line, if you compare it to other countries, we proportionally have substantially more vaccines, as well as we start mandating vaccines much sooner than many other first world countries.
But yeah, again, when we look at the value of a polio vaccine, let's face it, polio was eradicated, but not so fast. This is the Florida hold my beer moment. When they're looking at the anti-vax movement, and I'm not just talking about people who are trying to say, I have different reasons for doing what I choose, but people who say vaccines are all just bad. Polio's coming back.
Okay. I mean, I think Chris and I have different positions of this, which will make for a good debate, like seems to be. Which we have our first event. So I think that there is evidence to show that there are side effects related to vaccines, and different ethnicities have a higher propensity to have side effects,
and different genetics. I mean, the Neanderthal,
and when they're administered, and how many are administered at the same. There are studies to suggest that, as well as when the mandatory vaccines that are mandatory in most states to be in school, there weren't necessarily a cure or effective treatment. And luckily, taking polio, we have advanced quite a bit. So many of these illnesses are not a death sentence as they were at the time of the vaccination.
I agree they're not a death sentence, but you're still going to be crippled.
Here's my thing. I mean, the chickenpox, really?
Well,
but, you know.
Can I tell you something about chickenpox? If you did not know this, if you are a adult male, 18 and up, and you get the chickenpox, it can cause infertility.
Okay. Can I tell you, I think well, I'm not a male, so, you know, but I don't think I got the chickenpox until I was 17.
Oh, I was in a family of 4. We all took turns having it. But, I mean, the fact that...
No, my mom was like, nobody has ever got chickenpox. You know how I got chickenpox? I skipped school, and my girlfriend, who had already graduated, was babysitting her then boyfriend's child who had chickenpox, and even though I stayed away from the child, I ended up getting chickenpox. But yes, I guess that's
well, again, and
what you get for skipping school, and but I guess that was my lesson for that. Don't hang around sick people if you're going to skip school.
We look at older children, let's say, 18-year-olds, still kids in our opinion, but and they get chickenpox. I mean, I know when I was at law school, they had to quarantine an entire apartment.
So but here's one of my issues, and I'm not anti-vax, okay, but I do have various concerns. One of it is I do have concerns about the CDC and the fact that people that are on the deciding board regarding the vaccines have patents, and we might on things that they're trying to promote.
I can't disagree with you on
that there needs to be some looking into that.
30 and Jonas Salk with polio. I'm going back to then when that didn't exist. He let it go to the world. No patent.
So, here, well, we're not talking about patents for that. We're talking about choosing the ones that are mandated. And also my other concern with the vaccines is the fact that if you have a childhood vaccine, it doesn't require the same amount of trials, really requires very little trials to take place for that vaccine compared to if you even have a cancer drug, because there's an exception for that. As well as there is also the inability, let's say, if you have vaccines that are produced, that there's problematic, that you to be able to sue the pharmaceutical company.
Right, you have to go to a special court and all of that. And there's no...
which is part of the Supreme Court. You would file in the Supreme Court of the United States. So you have to go through that. So I think a lot of people don't know, by the way, about that court.
They don't.
They just assume.
I know lawyers who don't.
They just assume that nobody's getting hurt.
Right.
And they don't realize that people are being harmed, that the pharmaceutical companies told the government that they were going to stop doing this because of lawsuits, because they were getting lawsuits and judgments against them, and that there was a compromise that they were going to give the pharmaceutical companies immunity and set up this special court.
Right.
And the court, it is difficult to be paid, but the court does pay out.
Yeah, they do.
They do pay out claims. So, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So, but let's get into. So he's now mandated. It's now been mandated that there's no.
Right, but I'm going to go.
Do you want to get into more specifics about what they've done?
I want to get more specific about what was said.
Okay.
Because this is beyond just in Florida, man. This is beyond just the notion of freedom of choice. Because by the way, in Florida, you can opt out of vaccines for your children for schools if you have religious or other reasons. You can just fill out the forms. Your doctor can fill out the forms.
We have to go down there. And you don't even need to have a doctor fill out the form. You go down to the Department of Health office, and you fill out a form, and they can ask you some questions about, but it basically is that you say religious or I think maybe conscientious or something.
Conscientious objector sort of thing.
Yeah.
But here's what was said.
No, and by the way, can we say, this is a good point, because a lot of other states do not have that ability.
No.
And it is much harder. You have to file a lawsuit and really go in and plead your case as to why there is a reason for you to not have to do this. in order to
Florida's still out of form.
in order to put your kids in school. And this is another thing. This is in order to register your kids in private school. So obviously, if you're homeschooling your children, for instance, then that wouldn't necessarily apply. However, that being said, there are many pediatricians that have policies in their offices that they will not allow, they will not have exempt unvaccinated children as patients in their office, and they will refuse to have them as patients.
Right, because the overarching notion, again, beyond the science, again, we're lawyers, not scientists, is protect the herd. I mean, that's what they say over and over again.
Well, I just wanted to get into there were differing views. I don't know whether the science is valid or not valid. Right. You can say, because anybody can do a report.
Statistics can say anything you want them to.
What was what were the parameters of that study and all that? I don't want to get into that
until people stop vaccinating for
but that doesn't mean that there was major fallout it's a balance. Were there other things like digestive, anti-immune issues that came about from these over vaccines? One thing I can tell you is with the increase in vaccines in the United States, the time frame when they almost tripled them from what they were before, we all of a sudden have peanut allergies. Right. Okay. So to say that there's not a balancing, or because anytime you're injecting, there's a cause and effect. You give a mother an epidural during pregnancy, there's going to be a medical cause and effect to that, and there's got to be a balance.
There's risk and reward too.
Exactly.
What is it? And again, back in the 30s, when you look at polio, I mean, iron lung, I mean, cripple, I mean, all those sorts of things that look at and go, okay, so yes, that notion, and this is also if to go back to Charlie Kirk, well, if a few people get injured to support the Second Amendment, so be it. That's kind of the view of vaccinations of, yes, this is not perfect. But here's what I think is really interesting in Florida. I also
think that there is an argument to be made that you should have a choice over what's going into your body.
Right.
I do, and since the child doesn't have that opportunity to make that determination,
they don't.
I think there's a strong argument to make that argument that you should have a choice. You shouldn't be forced
but
put something in your own body.
That goes back
and
to
as
me.
adults, we do.
We do.
And actually, even as a parent with the vaccine laws, they're not saying you have to have this vaccine. What they're saying in most states is that if you would like to register your child in public school, then they're required to have these set of vaccines to register to school. Right. It's not that if you don't have that, you're being forced to have them as in that nature. And there is a big difference in that. But what is Florida saying? I think you need to get into, because I think we're debating prior to what you're specifically saying is being said.
This is part of the whole notion of the debate. Just like you said, we can opt out in Florida. What the Surgeon General is saying in Florida is they would prefer, instead of an opt out, an opt in. But the basis for it is what causes me concern.
Okay, well, tell me what your concern, the basis for the concern is.
This is at the press conference. Who am I? This is our Surgeon General. As a man standing here now, tell you,
I'm already laughing as soon as that happens. Go ahead.
What you should put in your body, because it is a reflection of God's light against the darkness of tyranny and oppression, and he likened it to slavery.
Okay, so which is laughable. First of all, it's laughable to liken this to slavery, number one. Number two, I'm sure he was a white male.
No.
Oh, no, he wasn't?
No, our Surgeon General is an African-American male.
Oh, okay. Because I would say it would be even worse if he was white. But it's laughable even with him being African-American. But the other thing is that I have to say is, does this apply to abortion?
You wonder, because the answer is, if I get to choose what goes on in my body, why shouldn't it apply to abortion? But no, that's not godlike, apparently, because people immediately said that all over the internet, all over the responses. Now, where I also find it interesting, to me, if this is a religion issue,
slavery. Can you get into? I'm not even. I was making a mental jump,
because you're being required to do something by somebody else who is your oppressor. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, but carrying a child after you've been raped, or going to die or going to die if you don't abort the baby that's not oppressive. Being forced to die.
Right.
Okay, that's not oppressive. Okay.
So we have a church and state issue going on to me to a certain extent, because this is our Surgeon General, who is actually, that is an appointed position with a whole lot of power and authority, saying, I am a man of God and I cannot abide by this. So I'm like, are you saying that as a Christian man,
or you as an elected official?
He's not elected, he's appointed.
Or appointed official.
So that's also important, because the notion of he was appointed by Governor DeSantis, and he thought that by making these statements that there would be a little bit of currying favor with the Republican establishment. Guess what? Didn't happen.
I do not think it's going to have a huge impact, and this is why. I think, we already have the waiver, so the people who don't want to get vaccinated are already not getting vaccinated. And then 2, I think that this isn't going to change the opinion of the American Pediatric Association that does recommendations.
Yep, they've already come out against it.
Yeah, it's not going to change that. And since this is only in Florida, it's going to be very difficult for an insurance company not to cover the vaccines, by the way, which especially the major one she's talking about, that they're not that expensive anyways to get. So I don't think it is going to have the major, because I think that the doctors are still going to be recommending it based on those protocols. I think that the insurance companies are still going to be covering it. I think maybe the only problem that you would have with, and I think people are going to still be wanting to have their children vaccinated that are already doing it. I think the only problem that I foresee is the Medicaid payments, but I do believe that there'll be organizations that will go ahead, because it isn't, generally these aren't expensive to start with. You're not talking about a newfangled drug that's costing $20,000. Well, are they? That's my point. You're not going to get them for free potentially at the Florida Health Department.
Remember, the Surgeon General cannot just by fiat or edict declare this, and that.
No, but it's the Florida Health Department, so they may cut off funding for the vaccines, and that is a concern.
Exactly, but the legislature is saying not really. And here's
why is the legislature saying that they're not? They're saying they're not going to vote to cut off that funding.
Correct.
Okay.
Back off, because here's a quote from Donald Trump immediately after hearing about it. It can't just be done by edict, and I would hope that the state legislature is going to exert a whole lot more wisdom about this issue than Dr. Lopato. I believe there are choices that parents get to make for their children. But you've also got the other side that says, well, if 9 of 10 of us have done the vaccines and you opt out, we protected the herd and you didn't.
But see, I don't, like I said, I disagree with you in the sense that it's going to have a major impact in Florida. I think if you did it in another state that didn't have that waiver process in place already, then I think that you would potentially see an immediate impact. But in Florida, because those people
have had
so easily go, and I can tell you the people that have concern know about this, because we may have people that are listening going, oh, I didn't know that was a possibility. Probably because it wasn't something you were interested in knowing or needed to know about. The people that are in those circles that different various circles for various reasons, religious or homeschooling or whatever,
there's immune issues,
immune, are aware that this is an option and to do this. Or even some people that may not be totally anti-vax but don't like the timing schedule, the recommended timing schedule. I want to have flexibility.
Absolutely, you can space that out a bit more. But here's the other interesting part is that after the edict and the slavery and the allegation, the reference to it, people pushed back. The Republican legislators, Democratic as well as the Pediatric Association, and said, "What's your research on this? We'd like to know more." And he said, "Oh, there isn't any research. I am just saying this." So again, he's saying...
The research related to slavery.
No, the research related to let's get rid of vaccines. He said, no, there's...
because they're erasing in Florida, so they're erasing... There has been things that have been done to attempt to erase or rewrite history related to slavery.
Slavery was a good idea because it taught people skills. So
who said that, by the way? Do you remember?
It was in the textbook. And this is why I thought this was a perfect one. This is called the chaos, because we think it's going to be chaos in the state of Florida.
I think this is going to be chaos in my mouth because tell them what it is.
So I purposely picked this for two reasons.
Today,
One,
she purposely picked this because she didn't want me drinking wine today.
yes,
Because she already knows my reaction.
Probably going to be a little on the nasty side, but it was important.
Picking chaos is going to be nasty.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this could be a nasty situation.
So
Why is it going to be nasty?
I wanted La Chaos in conjunction with the fact that this is a natural wine with no sulfites. All that stuff. And back to the whole notion of it's completely natural, so put it in your system. We have had natural wine before. If you watched our programs, it's not particularly good.
Well, no, we can't say, we don't want to diss the whole natural wine. So if you think you make a natural wine that is superb, that we're going to like, please send it to us. We will try it on here. But I have to tell you,
this was
the couple times we've tried, actually, those weren't natural wines. Those were vegan wines. Is that the same thing?
Similar, yeah.
Oh, is it similar
right?
or the same thing?
If you look at it, you can see the stuff floating in it because that's.
But no, but so
there's some stuff floating.
Natural and vegan are the same. Okay, I don't know.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna taste this, and I don't have high hopes. So if it tastes good.
It smells very vinegary.
It does, and it kind of
Kombucha.
looks vinegary too. Okay, kombucha. It tastes like kombucha.
Yeah, like kombucha, and not good kombucha.
It tastes like kombucha.
I can
I have to tell you, I can tell you, it doesn't taste as nasty as that other one. Like I actually, okay, that was foul. We threw that bottle away, by the way. This, I wouldn't pick it to drink it, but it is drinkable.
It's kombucha.
It tastes like kombucha.
It really does.
Like,
Which, it was supposed to be very good for you.
So if you wanted some kombucha,
and we'll have it a little fancier because it definitely has a little bit of processing more so than kombucha. You can see it's a little thing.
What is the alcohol content in it? Does it even say, or are we just drinking kombucha?
It should say it on the back.
The bottle is kind of funny. She picked those, so I can show you this. And actually, we forgot last week to show you the bottle. But this one has, it almost looks like a virus. I don't think that was their intent, but it does look like a virus.
It's got this protozoa looking thing.
Okay, so it does have 8.5% alcohol in it, and I have to say they're calling it a sparkling apple grape wine, and it does not contain any added sulfites, only the natural ones. So I mean, if you do like kombucha, and you want something a little elevated, and you want something to have a little alcohol, then you may want to try this. It was not nasty like the other.
No.
So, but I would not personally purchase it or buy it on my own spare time. So anyways, this is where we are. I'm going to give this because, first of all, I'm not a big white unless it sparkles. This doesn't have much of a sparkle.
I like kombucha.
Yeah, I do like kombucha. This has a very light sparkle. So I personally am going to give this a 2 because that's my...
I'd give it like a 2.5 only because I'm a kombucha fan and I've had alcoholic kombucha before.
Yeah.
And this is actually a little better than what
I do love kombucha. But so we're going to say cheers. Comment below. Tell us what you think. And don't forget to follow and subscribe. Cheers.